do you see the future of work in the AEC industry evolving with AI driving so much innovation?
It's really difficult to predict where it's going. AI is changing almost every day. Like if we don't follow the news one day, then like we are totally behind. The AEC firms, companies, they have their own projects. They need to focus on that. So it's really difficult for them to keep eye on what's happening on the AI world and see how they can bring opportunities to their companies, especially like back to your point, they're small, so they don't have that capacity.
Welcome to this episode of the AEC Engineering and Technology Podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping engineering professionals find technology that fits their needs. Did you know that AI adoption in the AEC industry is projected to grow by over 30% annually, transforming everything from project management to design efficiency? According to recent studies, this rapid growth is reshaping the way we work, collaborate, and innovate in engineering and construction. In today's episode, I'm diving into the future of work in the era of AI with Sam Zolfagharian, Ph.D. and president of YegaTech. She'll be talking about how AI is impacting the workforce, driving sustainability, and helping leaders navigate challenges like employee apprehension and misconceptions. I'm your host, Nick Heim, and this is the AEC Engineering and Technology Podcast. With that, let's jump into today's episode. It's now time for our conversation of the week with Sam Zolfagharian. Sam, thank you so much for taking the time to join the show and welcome.
Thanks for having me here. I'm excited for our conversation.
And I know we've got a lot to talk about today, so we're gonna jump right into it. So Sam, can you tell us a bit about yourself, your journey into the tech and AI space, and what led you to become president of YegaTech?
Sure. Actually, my journey started from the industry itself. My background is in structural engineering and construction management. I used to do design the building and going to the construction site and see how they're building everything, putting it together. It was like 20 years ago. Sorry, I'm not that old. 20 years ago. And back in time, I was like, this industry is far from technology. And I was curious to see like how technology can enable us more. And I decided to continue my higher education in Master of Construction Management and later Ph.D. at Georgia Tech. And my research was focusing on BIM, how we can manage the data flow from the conceptual design to the project delivery to the end, the whole life cycle. And through that project, I joined Autodesk as a product manager. So I wanted to build the technology itself. And back in time, my focus was on like doing similar thing as BIM for the manufacturing industry. They call it manufacturing information modeling or MIM. And through that process, I had lots of interaction with AI, how we can use AI to get insights to predictive for manufacturing process. And later, I wanted to come back to the construction. So I was working on ACS. Back in time, it was called BIM 360 or Construction Solutions. And I learned that AI is far from the industry, even though at tech companies, we are leveraging AI a lot, but the industry is far from it. And they even don't know that they're using AI in their daily tasks. And they have lots of interaction with the AI systems. For example, just on your phone, you have at least 100 AI process, but we don't notice it. It's just there, right? Even from unlocking your phone, it starts with an AI interaction and using the whole apps that you have on your phone as well. So anyway, my co-founder and I, we decided to start YegaTech, helping the industry understand AI opportunities and applications. And it was about three and a half years ago then when we started. And back in time, ChatGPT wasn't there yet. I think it was announced like 8 months after we started the company. And everyone was like, how we can bring those opportunities to our companies. And that's where we are helping them. We are helping to build that innovation process because most companies in our industry, they're small or maybe medium size and they don't have that innovation process. They know that there is an advantage of using AI out there. And we are helping them with that innovation process. We are helping them to understand the opportunities that are out there and how they can scale their business without increasing the headcount. So right now you can be more efficient without even adding more hiring more people throughout the process that you want to achieve. So that's where we're coming and helping them with that process.
And Sam, you've brought up two, I would say, contrasts in the AEC industry compared to tech work, which is one, so the rate of adoption of technologies, particularly AI, and then two, the size of these businesses, because like you mentioned, you have a lot of small and medium-sized businesses in the AEC. There aren't these behemoths like, let's say, some of these larger tech companies that are out there, which has a few implications. One of them being it's just maybe not as easy to get the snowball rolling like, other big firms have to have purchasing power and resources and innovation departments to actually get these moving. And just the state of the industry being what it is, right? It's a traditional industry. A lot of what we do is done in person. The rate of adoption of the technologies isn't quite as high, which I do think creates a nice niche for you and Mehdi. And Mehdi's been interviewed on the podcast and in previous episodes, and we'll include that in the show notes for anyone that's interested. But Sam, that leads me into my next question. So how do you see the future of work in the AEC industry evolving with AI driving so much innovation? Because there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of guidance out there, but I don't know that everyone is clear on where it's going. But, being an expert in the field, I think your opinion is valuable to those who are listening.
Yeah, it's really difficult to predict where it's going. AI is changing almost every day. Like if we don't follow the news one day, then we are totally behind. And it's the AEC firms, companies, they have their own projects. They need to focus on that. So it's really difficult for them to keep eye on what's happening on the AI world and see how they can bring opportunities to their companies, especially back to your point, they're small, so they don't have that capacity. And that's where we're trying to help them to have that innovation process. And where and how this industry is going to evolve, I wish I could predict the future. But what we are seeing, what I'm observing from the industry is most companies, they know that they can stick to their hourly billings. Like right now, most projects are hourly paid. And the more time you put on a project, the more money you can make. And that may not work moving forward. If AI, based on McKinsey's research, AI is going to automate 22% hours of our repetitive work. And that's almost, if we work 40 hours a week, is almost a day of work. So if I can finish a project faster, doesn't mean that I need to charge less. Not really. So companies are looking at the value-based pricing. So the business model will change down the road from selling hours to selling value. And if we look at past technologies, like when the cloud came out, software companies, they changed from selling software CDs to cloud subscription. So that's how they took advantage of the cloud technology. And similarly with these AI technologies, companies who are getting more efficient doesn't mean that they need to charge less. It's just selling value. And besides the business, people's skill will change as well. So right now, 2 weeks ago, it was announced that California's state universities in California, they're getting into partnership with OpenAI and AI tech providers to educate their students. So the next generation of workforce, they'll be expert in AI. They'll have the generic knowledge about AI. So that means that new opportunities, new job positions will be open, similar to BIM. Back in the time when we used CAD, there wasn't any BIM operation, BIM managers, BIM coordinators. But with BIM, we had new roles and positions. Similarly with AI and having universities train their students about AI, the new job positions will be created down the road. And I won't say that existing jobs won't be impacted with each revolution, and AI is one of those wave of innovation. New jobs opportunities will be created and some jobs will go obsolete. right? So it's similar. So then people, what they do, the existing workforce, they need to upskill themselves. They need to learn more about AI and see how it can help with their job. And besides people, I mentioned that briefly, that some of the jobs we do in our daily work will be automated. We'll have less repetitive tasks. And it's really common in our industry, especially for junior staff, to work over hours or during weekend because they have a project, they have a deadline to meet. With AI and getting rid of some of those repetitive tasks, we see more work-life balance, which is essential for mental health for our employees and for retention rate. It's really difficult to find skilled workforce, and having that work-life balance can be a motivation for our employees. I talk about the new business model, I talk about the new skill set, I talk about the work-life balance. And the last piece I want to talk about is the process. 20 years ago, Amazon, those tech providers, they knew the value of data. So they started to capture, collect data. They started to build an ecosystem that they can leverage their consumers, their user data to do the target marketing or do better offerings to their clients. Right now with AI, more and more companies see the value of data, and they're trying to create a process for capturing that data from the day that they get the project, they get the proposal, to the day that they're delivering the project. So they can capture all data so that in the next step, they can take advantage of it and make decision based on what they did good or it didn't go well from the past projects.
A lot of great points there, Sam. And I think one of mine is actually its business model innovation, because you're right. For many firms, you're tied to this business model that, where your income is essentially dictated by how much you work. And that's I think different for every firm, but we can all agree that if there is a reduction in hours, that doesn't necessarily mean a reduction in value. In addition to what you've described, right? Labor shortages, work-life balance, it's a lot of change to be undertaken by firm leaders. So what steps can these AEC leaders take right now to get their organizations ready for the changes AI will bring? And on top of that fact, right, even if you did nothing different today, there's still changes coming from the industry and your competition. So it sounds like there's change coming whether we like it or not.
Definitely. Change is coming. And 2 weeks ago, the current administration, they signed the bill for $500 billion investment in AI infrastructure to be spent in the next 4 years. It's a lot. It's about $125 billion per year. Back in railroad revolution, they just spent 10% of GDP on railroad, and see where we are with that. Imagine with this $500 billion, what's going to happen in the next 4 years and after that. So definitely AI is not the hype. And back to your point about what AEC companies need to do is the first thing is education and training. Right now, if you ask people what AI means, everyone has a different understanding of AI. Some people just see it as GPT. Some people just see it as like something scary, or it's even difficult for some people to differentiate and understand like AI and machine learning. They see it totally different, even though machine learning is a subset of AI. And that's totally fine, because we didn't need to know that level of details before. But now that AI is like getting more and more integrated in our daily work, we really need to understand what it is, how it works, so that we can verify the results we are getting out of it. We know how it works and how it comes up with that answers that it does today. And education and training doesn't have to be expensive. You just can give that a space to your employees to go and take online courses. There are many free online courses out there that they can take advantage. The only thing is like if you give them that space for learning, because what we discussed earlier, like we are hourly based payment, and that doesn't allow employees to spend like an hour or 2 hours of their daily weekly work on learning. So but if you can give that time to your employees, 2 hours a week, go and learn more about AI, that's the way that they can bring back that value to your company. So make sure your employees are educated, because by education you can change their feelings. And if you're going to set the vision for AI, you can get their support. If they don't understand, then they'll push back your support. They won't even support your vision. So you need their support to achieve your vision. And for doing so, education is the key.
Makes sense to me. I mean, it's independent of the technology or the process, and whether we're talking about a change of pen and paper or a change to anything related to AI. It's that basic principle of going back to the stakeholders, in this case, the employees of the company, making sure they're educated about the change and why it's happening, and using that as a starting point. Because I mean, I've experienced the same in my career. When change isn't communicated well, it can result in a lot of frustration, which isn't a great start to whatever initiative you're trying to bring forward and change you're trying to implement.
Yeah. And can I add something else to that? It's like every change, back to your point, is coming from changing people's mindset, right? Their mindset needs to be changed so that they can support your vision, so that you can achieve your goal. And beside your employees, you need to also think about your clients and stakeholders. If your clients, they don't understand AI, they would put a clause on the contract that you're not allowed to use AI, because they don't understand the value that they can get out of it. So it's really important not to just focus on your employees, but also make sure that your clients, those stakeholders that are out there, understand the value of AI as well. There are some people that definitely will push it back, and whatever you tell them, they're against of it, which is fine. With every technology, you have some people that they like it, they get the value, and there are people that they don't like it. And doesn't matter how much effort you put in it, they won't buy your vision, they won't support you, which is fine. You want to focus on that piece that are aligned with your vision so that you can make progress.
And it's just, timeless lessons, let's say, in either human psychology or change management, that are just applied to a very rapidly changing field. Just, right, we're humans, we've been around for a while. We don't change as quickly as the technology around us. So I completely agree, and can experience, it just takes time, and some people won't come around, and that's okay too. But Sam,
Yeah.
my next question then ties back to the employees and the workforce in these companies. How do you see AI impacting the workforce in engineering and construction, and what transformation should we anticipate? And I know earlier, right, it's hard to predict the future, and it's not like you have a crystal ball, but like, what are you seeing, and what insight can you share with us?
We talk about like how universities are including AI in their courses. So what's going to happen out of it in the next step? You will have a combination of existing workforce who may not know that much about AI, and the upcoming workforce who have background in either AI and also the domain and the industry itself. What I see how it would change is, right now, I had a workshop 2 weeks ago with an engineering firm, and one of the junior engineer, he was like, you know what, you said that you used to be a structural engineer, but we don't have that many structural engineers today, and it's really difficult to find a structural engineers. And considering that we don't have that many workforce who are expert in engineering, the future would be a combination of AI expert and domain expert who are sitting together to do the design. So there will be like transformation, like a transfer step, that in which the domain expert, they don't know that much about AI, but we have AI expert who could partner with the domain expert to make it happen and take advantage of AI. So what I see in the next step for companies, they would look for someone who understands both AI and also domain expertise or just AI, and can partner with those skilled labor, the skilled engineers that they have to do the design faster and better, so that they can fill out that shortage, labor shortage as well.
And I think, and even going back to the development of, let's stick to structural engineering as a use case, right? Even going back to the development of structural analysis software, it's my understanding, right? Like you may pair experts in computer programming and structural engineering to work together to develop a product. And I know a select few who are experts in both fields, right? A little bit harder to find, but it's not anything new pairing a domain expert, an SME, with someone who has expertise in whatever technological realm you're discussing. So it's not like it's something we haven't done before as an industry.
I would say maybe medium or large companies are doing it, but not that many small to medium sized companies. And that's where these companies will include that in their workflows, in their process as well. Large companies, they have like well-established innovation process. They even, like, some of them, they build their own technologies and may do the offering, they do the investment on a startup. They have the whole ecosystem because of maybe the money they have, maybe because of the number of employees they have, the talents that they have. But when it comes to small or medium-sized companies, now they're thinking about it.
And we spoke about this one a little bit earlier when we were talking about things firm leaders can do, as AI becomes more commonplace. So this one is about employees again, and the apprehension they may feel about AI adoption. So more specifically, how can AEC leaders ease those fears and create a culture of trust and adaptability?
I probably will repeat myself partially, because I believe with education and training, we can change people's mindset and get them support what we're trying to do. And for doing that, first of all, you need to communicate why. If you're an executive and you're leading an AEC firm, you need to clarify why AI. Your employees, if they understand why, then they'll support your vision. And with that, it goes back to that Simon Sinek, people support why and not what and how you're going to do it. So if you have a vision in terms of why AI and communicate it with your employees, you can get their support. And to get them act in a way that can benefit your vision is make sure that they're educated and trained. They understand what AI is, how it can help them, how they can find opportunities. There are many tools out there. People are reaching out to us. They're asking which tools I should use. There are many things out there. Like today was DeepSeek. Tomorrow was like Alibaba's AI system. A day after, it might be someone else's tool. So it's really difficult to keep track of tools. So if you're looking for tools, that's a never-ending process. But what you need to find out is like what you're trying to achieve. What are your core business success that you want to focus on? And that's how you can leverage AI. So with that education, you can get your employees involved to support that. I remember during one of our AI workshops, and I talked about it in the book, Disrupted, will be coming out by the end of Feb 2025. There was a lady, a board member, who came to us and was like, oh, you want to talk about AI? And I don't like AI. And it was a little bit interesting because she was really strong in sharing her thought. She was like, the future generation won't have jobs if we adopt AI, if we bring AI to our company. And during the workshop, after 7 hours, she came to us at the end of the day and she was like, you know what? You converted me. And the only thing that changed was education. Now she could understand AI. She could see the value of AI and how it may enable their business and bring value to their employees, even in terms of work-life balance. And that's where she was like, okay, what's next for us? She was in the support of the idea of bringing AI to their companies. And the only thing that changed was, the training, the education. The second piece that I want to talk about is companies do education, training, everything, but they don't give that space of innovation to their employees. So they learn. So what? You created that excitement and they want to do something. They want to take action. But since they have to put more hours on the projects because they can make more money, they don't get that space for innovation. So it goes nowhere. That space for innovation is not really common in our industry, but it's a common practice in tech industry because they know if their employees have that space for innovation, they can get something out of it later down the road. Like Google spend like 20, the employees can spend 15 to 20% of their time just going, thinking, looking for opportunities out there so that they can add a new business line to their companies, new products to their companies. And besides that, the space for innovation, the other way, the third thing is make sure that the incentives are aligned with your business goal. So now you train them, you give them a space for innovation, but if there isn't any incentive, they lose their motivation. So your employees, your managers, they need that incentive. The incentive, it doesn't have to be just like bonus. It could be promotion. It could be in terms of recognition during all hands or town hall session that you have. Something that they could be recognized for their efforts so that they can get more motivated to do something. So doing the training, giving that a space for innovation, and also making sure that you have some incentives that are aligned with your business goals, with your AI strategy, could be really beneficial for companies moving forward.
And Sam, I would echo that and say yes, like we as an industry don't do a great job on the research and development front and innovation as well. Just because with hourly billing models, like we have quotas and we're in business to make money, right? So every hour you're not billing is detracting from some goal, some financial goal of the company. And I'll never fault a firm for thinking like that, just because if that's the way they do business, it is what it is. But I will even say, in my experience, some of the best ideas which were implemented and then had financial returns well beyond the time that I spent, I think that's a great use case or example of that I don't even want to call it playtime because it's really not, right? It's just free space to think about how to make the business better that may not be able to be realized today financially. So, to anyone that's listening and wants some ideas, maybe giving your employees, let's say, a few hours every week to just experiment, tinker, and really think hard about like what the business is trying to achieve and what you can do to help them provide innovation in their environment.
One tip here that might be helpful for your audience, for those visionary companies that we're working with, what they did to tackle this problem was defining a project just for this initiative. So employees who are working toward that AI strategy, AI vision, they put their hours for that specific project so that the company can track, and also down the road, they can measure how much time they spend on like AI strategy, AI projects, and what was the value that they could get out of it. So that way you can do more measurable way of a space for innovation for your employees.
And I'll also add, and I'm no tax expert or expert in any field, but there are certain ways, let's say at least the US government incentivizes this type of activity. So there may be a more immediate return on that. But I would just obviously consult the professionals in your line of work on things of that nature. And Sam, this is actually a good bridge into our next topic. So AI, right? It's a very popular term in the media. It's almost becoming like a buzzword and the top of everyone's minds in the public, which pairs really well with another topic that's at top of mind, which is sustainability. So how does AI interact with sustainability? What role does AI play in that space? And then how can the AEC industry manage its potential negative environmental impacts?
That's a big question and a common question that everyone asks. We can spend hours on it. I'm trying to see how I can consolidate my response in just a few minutes. The thing about AI is if we can do things faster and more efficient, that means that we spend less time on our computers, and it means less energy. Even the process of construction, the design could be more efficient. That means we'll have less waste. So there are many ways, there are many use cases that AI can help us to manage the energy consumption, to manage the waste, because construction is accounted for over 60% of waste that we have globally. So imagine like if we can reduce the amount of waste, how much contribution would it be toward that sustainability carbon footprint goal? And the other aspect of it is, since it's not new, it's been around for like 6 years, since 1950s, but it's kind of getting into consumers' hand. Like now, even my grandma can sit on his computer and chat with ChatGPT, like have kind of her own interaction, because it's available to everybody, to all consumers out there. And that means like leveraging more energy. But the thing is, since it's kind of new in this aspect, tech companies are trying to see how they can optimize, how they can manage the energy consumption of AI systems. Right now, data centers, based on McKinsey's report, they spend 2% of global energy consumption, only 2%. And out of that, just in the US, 10 to 20% of energy that the data centers spend is just by AI model. So if we think about it in that perspective, it may not be a lot, even though people are measuring it in terms of like each search is spending like 10x of Google search, or it's just wasting like a gallon of water. Yes. But if we look at it in that perspective, it may not be a lot, even though it's still a lot. But tech companies are trying to see how they can optimize their algorithm, AI algorithm, to get to the response, to be able to get the job done in a more optimized way with less energy. And also tech companies trying to see how they can have more sustainable chip technologies. So it's a combination of software and hardware to reduce the amount of energy consumption that AI systems have out there. It may not happen in the next 2 to 3 years. We still will have some concerns in terms of AI carbon footprint, energy consumption, but definitely we'll get there, and we'll find a way to get into more optimized or sustainable way of using AI with less impact on our environment.
And I thought about this one too, Sam, and I guess my layperson's view, admittedly, is you don't need let's say a PhD level model, right, for my grandma to go say, hey, I need a recipe to bake cookies with these ingredients, right? So it's about, I guess, having the compute power and ultimately the energy expenditure to match the task at hand, which it sounds like these companies are actively working on.
Yeah. And yes, definitely, because I don't want to say it's just marketing purpose, but it's in terms of environmental and ethic aspect. They want to make sure that they can have more sustainable way of leveraging AI or providing AI technologies for their users and consumers. And one more thing that will happen in the next 4 years, since we have that $500 billion investment in AI infrastructures, we'll have more and more data centers. Now we are going to have 10 data centers just in Texas this year, because they're supposed to spend $100 billion of that just this year. So it's not all about AI technologies. Part of it is about the infrastructure. We need like a building. We need somewhere to host our data, to run those algorithms. And that's the part that makes me excited about our industry. I'm like, Nothing can happen without
Nope.
construction. You need
Yeah,
a building.
that's just the thing for every factory that manufactures cars,
Yes.
or for
Yeah.
every data center that houses, right, the
Yeah.
servers that are the cloud, right, because they're still physical pieces of infrastructure. There needs to be a building that houses that activity, right? So somebody needs to take it out of the ground, get it built up, and we're the industry for the task, right?
Yeah. And back to that data centers, we face more challenges in terms of energy consumption, because imagine how much energy you need for those new data centers and more AI usage. So that's going to be one of the challenges that we'll face in the next few years. But again, tech companies, they're trying to see how they can have better software, like in terms of software, how they can have better algorithm and how they can have better hardware or chip technologies for that.
And I'd have to, and even beyond just the environmental impact, for whatever reason they may be doing so, or like being more efficient has to drive their costs down as well, which is good for all parties, the consumer and these companies in general, because I'd have to imagine it increases demand for their product, which is a net benefit.
Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, Sam, next question here goes again back to the professionals in the industry. What are some of the common misconceptions about AI that you think AEC professionals should be aware of? And, are there any, let's say, specific interactions from, seminars or courses that you guys are putting on that you might want to share?
One of the most common one is everyone talking about that AI is hype and then it goes down. With this investment and having even Saudi Arabia doing additional $400 billion investment on that just in the US, that's not a hype. Nobody invests that much of money in a hype. So if we look at it as just a hype, we'll be left behind in the next 5 to 10 years. It's going to be difficult for us to catch up. So I would say AI is not hype. You may hear with every new technologies, the metaphor that I use is like a newborn baby that comes to a home. Everyone is trying to figure out and adjust their schedule, like have a room for baby or whatever. It's like a chaos at home. But after a while, they get used to it. They know how to manage their schedule. They know like what they need to do next. So with AI is like that. Maybe at the beginning, there is like some nuances, some challenges, but by the time when we understand it better, it gets common, but it doesn't go down. It's just part of our routine and daily work. And the second misconception people say is like AI is not for our industry. Like how AI can help us. For us, it's just the liability, or like this is not for our industry. I remember 2 years ago when I visited my doctor for physical checkup. She was like, she was asking about my job, what I do. And she was like, I don't think AI will come for our job because ours is relevant to people. We need to save people. We are like interacting with people. But guess what? Since 2 years ago, I haven't seen her because everything I do is happening virtual over the phone. And now we have like AI systems out there that are surpassing doctors' diagnostics. So we have AI systems that predicting cancers or like trying to find other disease. So yeah, even AI is now enabling the healthcare industry. And the third piece, so definitely there are opportunities for us as well. And the third piece that I will see it as a misconception is most companies, there are like tech companies out there, I don't want to name them, but tech companies out there, they'll build it for us. We just have to wait. Yes, whatever they build, they're targeting a big market, $1 million market. And once they build it, they make it available for everybody, then that's not going to be a competitive advantage for you. That's like an essential tool that you need to adopt. So there isn't any competitive advantage. What's the competitive advantage, what could be beneficial for you and your business is what are that core business you have and what are the secret sauce that you have that AI can enable, augment that, amplify that. go and look for those opportunities, because nobody is going to address those issues. The market is really small, and that's where you need to look at. So AI's hype is not for our industry. AI is for every industry, even AEC. And don't wait for the tech companies to build solutions for your secret sauce, because the market might be too small for them to focus on it. Find those opportunities, find your core business that is really different from others, and see how AI can augment that.
Great point, Sam. And my at least takeaways are, one, like, going back to our earlier question, you can choose, you could be someone who just says, hey, AI is not for us and we're not going to use it. But that doesn't mean your competition isn't going to be trying to apply it. So you're going to be subjected to pressure from outside forces, even if you choose not to use it. And I think it all just depends on your use case, like you said earlier. So it just goes back to education and helping people understand like what role AI may or may not play, just depending on what you do specifically. Yeah, Sam, I just want to thank you again so much for taking the time to join us. I've learned a lot today, and I know behind you is your book, if you want to just turn your right shoulder and show. So end of February of 2025, it sounds like.
Yes, and I'll have my test print next week, so I'm excited to see how it looks like. This is like a placeholder, so my dreams come true soon.
And you guys do have a book that has been published for at least a year or two now, right? To augment it. I'm looking.
I think it's now 3 years.
3 years.
Before GPT. Yeah, it was before GPT. It's called Augmented. And this one is focusing on AI itself, like what AI, some use cases. But Disrupted is focusing on how you can prepare your organization, including people, process, and culture, for the future of work.
And I'll even speak because I have a copy of Augmented sitting right here. What was useful for me as someone who's in the industry, is interested in the technology, but is by no means an AI expert, let's say, just being able to understand the basic terminology, the differences between like artificial intelligence and then subcategories like computer vision, machine learning, etc. So I'd recommend picking up a copy, and I know when your new book gets released, I'll be looking for a copy as well.
Sure, yep. For the audience who might be interested to check out Disruptor, go to yegatech.com/free resources and download the 5 steps to prepare your organization for the future of work. And where you heard about us, say AEC Tech podcast, and we'll be happy to send a signed copy to the first 5 participants.
Wonderful. So Sam, thank you again so much for taking the time today. What final piece of advice would you give to AEC professionals who want to stay relevant and thrive in this era of AI and all the change that it's bringing?
I would say we are people-powered industry. I was talking to someone, and he was from the industry, and he was like, we're in people-powered industry, and I totally agree. We are people-powered industry, and what's happening right now is the revolution, and it's going to be in the history 20 years later, 30 years later, and see how you can help your people get comfortable with what's happening, how you can prepare them. Focus on your people and prepare them so that they can buy your vision and they can support you to achieve your goal. Because without people, whatever technology you bring to your company, it won't help you. You need to get your people aligned and supportive of your vision.
Well said. And I like people power, Sam. I call it a shaking hands and kissing babies type industry, yeah. like the president or politicians might do. So people powered, I'm putting that in my repertoire. But thank you again for joining us today. What's the best way for listeners to connect with you if they have any more questions about what we spoke about today?
I would say LinkedIn. and I'm pretty much active on LinkedIn. And actually, I share a lot on LinkedIn about what's happening, the trend, and what it means for our industry. If you're interested to get access to the recent incidents and what it means for you as an AEC leaders or employees, just get connected on LinkedIn.
Thank you again so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great talking to you, Nick.
Absolutely. And until next time, please remember, you can find the show notes for this episode at aectechpodcast.com. There, you will find a summary of key points discussed in today's episode, as well as links to any of the resources, websites, or books mentioned during this episode. Until next time, I wish you the best in all of your engineering and technology endeavors. Thank you.